The following is an edited conversation that took place on April the 29th, 1963 with Elizabeth Fry, who was born in 1780 in Norwich, UK, and was a prison reformer, social reformer and Quaker. Fry passed away in 1845. She's in conversation with George Woods and Betty Greene, and the medium was Leslie Flint. George Woods asked the first question. Could you tell us something about what happens on the other side? The different orders of that side. What happens to these people who make bombs and are out to destroy and are destructive? Elizabeth Fry. Well, I suppose that the question can be answered in a sense in one sentence. As a man sows, so shall he reap. And if a man in your world creates a condition of havoc and unhappiness and is only concerned with material things, and obviously when he comes here, he will find himself on a plane which is very similar to Earth. He will be living a very material conception of life because the man has not changed. Death does not change a person immediately. A person is very much the same, and until such time as a man himself begins to realize that he is living in a condition of life that he himself has built. Then, and until he changes and begins to search within himself to discover his faults and rectifies them, he will be living in a condition very similar to the Earth. He will be living in a material mental state. That is what happens to individuals when they leave your world. They live in a condition of life created by their state of mind. Of course, the person who has lived a reasonably good life will find himself in an atmosphere which is congenial and pleasant. He will find that he will have every opportunity to experience many things that perhaps were denied him on Earth. For instance, you may have someone who, by the circumstance of the earthly life, were made to live an unhappy and dreary existence, but by their very nature endeavour to be kind and considerate, will find a very happy condition of existence, and those opportunities will be presented here. For instance, you may have someone who would have liked to have been a musician or an artist, or somebody who perhaps would have loved to have had a beautiful garden, will find that they have a house with a very beautiful garden. If they wanted to become a musician over here, they can be a musician. Everything here is organised, although there is, in a sense, no organisation here. Everything is in its place, but there is no conscious organisation. Here you will have every opportunity to settle and to be happy, but great possibilities and greater things will lie ahead because nothing is static here. Everything has an opportunity for change, and if a person begins to change in themselves and desires a better order, gradually they will find those conditions. It's all a state of being, a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness, and one contributes towards this, and therefore you'll find yourself in a congenial atmosphere for which you are best suited. The average person coming here finds a happy state of being and a great opportunity for knowledge, experience and rest, if it's necessary. There is no depression unless the person coming here has a great deal that they have cause to regret in their makeup and in their life. People do go through a state of readjustment where they assess themselves and begin to feel they could have done so differently when on Earth, and they could have helped so much more than they did. Self-centered people find things very difficult at first, but everyone eventually finds a state of existence which one could call happiness. It is never denied, but everyone must earn it. Everyone goes through stages of evolution until they have reached a certain goal and will stay in that environment until they feel the need to go further. Although there are many people who are earthbound, who never really left the earth and are on an earthly state of consciousness, an earthly plane. They often cause some concern to people on your side who are aware of poltergeists, who are aware of interference. You do get souls who are materialistic minded and got a great deal of pleasure in influencing people on your side, especially people who open up their consciousness to these influences. Not enough is understood about the earth souls. Although they've passed from your world, are still very much part of it. These earthbound creatures are not necessarily evil, though there are some, of course, that are in themselves not doing anything that is working out their own salvation and are receiving a great deal of pleasure by utilising people on your side. I'm quite sure that many of the people in mental hospitals in your world are under the influence of earthbound spirits, and I think it is a great tragedy that this subject is not better understood amongst the medical profession. On this side, we have many souls who work in groups, who endeavour to help and take away, where possible, these influences. But sometimes it is very difficult to do very much about it, and although there are no laws, as there are no actual leaders. A person here does not give orders. We have groups of souls who do special work, that we are all interwoven and are all very conscious of this oneness of spirit. Here, no one glories in being a leader, whereas in your world, in religious organisations and political organisations, you get this glorification of the individual. The first thing a person must learn here is to lose that idea of self-importance. Everything that we do here is done in complete love and harmony, and no one wants to override another person. We do not recognise leaders in the sense that you do. God is not found in buildings or places. God is found within one's soul, within one's inner consciousness, and all that is of nature. I don't think that any human being who truly seeks God will find God in something which is man-constructed. For man in his foolishness and his ignorance considers that he must build edifices to house something which is so much of the spirit. You cannot contain the spirit in a casket. It is something that is as free as the air you breathe, and you must become conscious and aware of it. Souls from this side who truly progress have broken all the bonds and shackles that have bound them through centuries of wrong thinking. To find that great truth that all men truly seek can only come when they begin to put the house of God in order. For there is a house of God, but it is not a building, it is the temple of the soul. We're not talking individually, but in a collective sense, because the Spirit of God is within all men. It is a force and a power that nothing can destroy. One may lose the body, but one gains the soul, and as one gains experience and knowledge, one realizes the tremendous power of spirit that overcomes all things. Man will only find truth when he takes away from himself the shackles that have bound him for centuries. God is found among those who are wise in their simplicity, and it is in simplicity that we find truth, not among those in high places who through books and learning and through other methods have assumed that they are spiritually wise. Spiritual wisdom comes from those who have sought within themselves and found the germ of truth and the realization of it. As you serve others, you become more aware of God's wisdom and truth. The power of the Spirit that is around you is all the time endeavouring to break through and open the consciousness of others. Greene. What happens when people like royalty pass over, who have been used to comfort and have no worries of finance? Everything is done for them. They don't know what it is to be poor or hungry. Elizabeth Fry. A person may have nothing and be an extremely good person, or a person may have everything that the world offers and also be a good person. I think the whole thing surely depends on whether that person in that position has truly and conscientiously served to the best of their ability in the calling that they've been given. I don't think it matters one iota whether they live in a palace or in a cottage. They will find when they come here that they will be given a condition of life which will be most suited to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be a palace, because surely there must be many people who have lived in palaces and still live in palaces who, if the truth were known, are glad to relax in just perhaps 1 or 2 rooms. They don't particularly want the pomp and the ceremony. It's part of their heritage, it's part of their background, they've had to accept it through birth, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are particularly fond of it. It may well be that they've accepted it because it is something they have to accept. But at heart, they may be fundamentally very good and very sincere and very humble people. Because a person has been used to a palace, they would assume they should have a palace. I don't think it even matters, because I am quite sure there are plenty of people who have lived in a cottage who, when they come here, would like to live in a palace and probably deserve one. And there are plenty of people who live in palaces who, when they come here, would like to live in a cottage. I think we must not take this purely on the material basis that the reflection of the earth life would be the same here. I have met so-called kings and queens. Here we have no kings and queens. In certain cases, people of high order, materially that is, who have been used to so much deference and have been given everything that the earth seems to offer, there are certain cases of individuals here who have found it very difficult to shake off the sort of atmosphere and attitude of mind. That is something that they have to learn. Fundamentally, all humanity is the same. What is so wonderful is that here they still retain their individuality. If it were not so, we would never recognize each other, and that of course would be very tragic. a very unhappy state of affairs for people who are very close to others. When a person first comes here, they're very much the same when their relations join them. The spiritual body is an exact counterpart of the physical body. That is, if the physical body itself is in a perfect condition or perfect state. If the physical body has degenerated with age or through illness or something has happened to it by accident, it is only the physical body that has those marring conditions. The spiritual body would be a reproduction of the perfect physical body. No one needs fear that they will not recognize a loved one. We must remember that all life here is a state of mind, and the only things that are created are thoughts. Your world is completely apart from nature, that is, a thought world. Man is no more than he thinks. All that you have around you and about you that has been created by generations of men has fundamentally been brought about by the power of thought. We are the same. We bring with us our personality, our character, and our thought ability. We create our life by our power of thought. No one needs worry that when a person passes, they will be so changed beyond all recognition. The only change is something which we bring about by our change of outlook and development. It's a gradual process that I don't think any generation needs to fear, not recognizing a previous generation, because time itself is of no importance. It takes generations and generations of time for people to progress to the extent that will become unrecognizable. This is a tremendously difficult subject at times to clarify, because there is so much that we'd like to give you, where words in themselves are inadequate and cannot depict or describe. Therefore, we can only bring things to a certain level so that you can grasp it. But I feel sure that each and every one who seeks from your side the truth that the Word of Spirit can give will find according to their searching, according to their sincerity of purpose. But when man can release himself from all these bonds which have chained him down, which have closed his mind for generations, when a man can free himself from the ties that have bound him to a creed and dogma that have held him back from progressing, from searching, from seeking, when man is truly free, spiritually free, then he will discover and open up tremendous avenues of spiritual progression. George Woods. We see so many little children with no chance in life at all, but there's so much wealth. They seem to have no hope whatsoever, and some may become criminals. Elizabeth Fry. Well, you cannot blame a child who, through circumstances beyond their control, has become ill-mannered, who does things that are not accepted. We must always remember that people are the product of their environment. And if that environment has been created because of the selfishness of the few, then you can hardly blame the individual. There are many things which take time to be brought into reorganization and change. Don't think that for one moment that any soul that comes here is in any way judged. A person is responsible to themselves for their actions, but every conceivable avenue is taken into consideration in regard to an individual. But there again, it is not others that do the judging, it's oneself. If a person knows when they come here that they've done many things that were wrong, but they realise that it was due to environment and conditions, which to a great extent were beyond their control, there are those redeeming features. All that is considered. I don't think that there is one solitary thing that one can mention in regard to life here that is not just. Everything is just, because everything here falls into a condition of natural law and order. Every individual sorts himself out. Not others do it for you. You are perhaps helped or often shown the path and advised, but no one can be forced to do anything. No one can be made to change. A person changes subtly, gradually. They don't suddenly become people of great wisdom, people of great spiritual attainment. Everyone gradually evolves, and the word criminal gradually evolves into the better person, the more advanced person. It may take eons of time, but time is infinitesimal to us because we are in eternity, and there is no time in eternity. There can be a kind of consciousness of time, and on the lower spheres there is this consciousness of time, but it's purely a reflection of the material. I wish one could explain this more fully, but it's impossible. For instance, in your world you can see so far, and you can see no further, and yet as you travel forward you are approaching that which was before out of sight. So it is with us. We have perspective, we can see so far, and as we are travelling forward, other aspects of perspective come into view. Other parts of existence and life that we didn't know existed gradually become within our conscious range. You must look upon eternal life as a gradual process marching forward, and as one is going forward, new vistas strike the horizon. And as you approach them, they become more clear, and you see a different picture and a different scene. That is why different souls from different spheres must surely depict life rather differently, one to another. It all depends on the individual, how far they have progressed, and what their experiences are. I think this is the most wonderful thing, that we can, for a few brief moments of your earthly time, link with you and talk with you, discuss with you, and as far as it's in our power, help and guide you. And that's why you are doing this work to help others. Surely it is the greatest thing of all. Go forward, my friends, in strength, and know that you are highly blessed.